News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moscow.
Karen, we begin with the latest on the trade front. Days before expected talks with China in Malaysia, President Donald Trump has signed an agreement with Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese to boost access to critical minerals and rare earths. The deal is part of efforts to secure a stable supply of critical minerals, with Australia positioning itself as a viable alternative to China. President Trump says his administration is still talking to Beijing about a trade deal.
I expect we'll probably work out a very fair deal with President Xi of China. So most of you will be with us. It's going to be very exciting. And I think we're going to work out something that's good for both countries.
And President Trump spoke from the White House. The U.S.-China trade truce is set to expire November 10th.
Well, Nathan, the Supreme Court is set to hear arguments next month over President Trump's global tariffs. But before that, a group of small businesses is weighing in. They filed briefs urging the high court to affirm lower court rulings that the tariffs amount to an illegal tax on American companies. One of the companies, Learning Resources, says the president usurped Congress's power to tax by invoking an emergency law that was never intended to be used to impose duties on other countries. A second brief, led by wine and liquor distributor VOS Selections, says the tariffs contradict what the nation's founders intended by giving Congress the power to levy taxes.
Well, already, Karen, we're seeing the impact of tariffs on sales of luxury watches. Swiss watch exports fell in September, hurt by the Trump administration's 39% tariff on imports from Switzerland. In fact, there was a 55% plunge in Swiss exports to the U.S., which is the watch industry's largest market.
In Washington, Nathan, the government remains shut down after the Senate failed to pass Republican stopgap funding bill yet again yesterday. Republican Senator Ted Cruz says he thinks Democrats are prolonging the shutdown.
There are 14,000 air traffic controllers who expected to come into work, but they didn't get a full paycheck. And this needs to end. It's not right. It's not fair. And I think Democrats are holding not only the U.S. government hostage, but holding the American people hostage.
Senator Ted Cruz tells Bloomberg he does not know when the government will reopen. Meanwhile, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says Republicans need to negotiate.
It's been over a month since the House of Representatives even took a single roll call vote. That's shameful. That's derelict. Government workers must work without getting paid. House Republicans get paid without working.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says health care premiums are a fix-it-now issue and should be negotiated before the government reopens.
Well, Karen, the shutdown's affecting deal-making. Anglo-Dutch consumer goods company Unilever has pushed back its demerger of Magnum ice cream. That's because it says the Securities and Exchange Commission is unable to declare effective U.S. regulation statements that are required for the ice cream company's shares to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Unilever does expect to complete the spin-off of Magnum ice cream this year. It was initially on track for mid-November.
Now let's get to the latest on the war in Ukraine. Nathan, Senate Majority Leader John Thune says he's hitting the pause button on new sanctions legislation against Russia until after President Trump's planned meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The bill would formalize sanctions that are already in place and impose up to 500% tariffs on imports from countries that buy Russian energy products and are not actively supporting Ukraine. During his meeting with Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, President Trump was asked if he still thinks Ukraine could win the war.
I don't think they will, but they could still win it. I never said they would win it. I said they could win. Anything can happen. You know, war is a very strange thing.
President Trump spoke at the White House. He plans to meet with Putin in Budapest after meeting last week with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Russia says Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov spoke today with Secretary of State Marco Rubio and came no closer to scheduling a Trump-Putin summit.
Well, history has been made in Japan, Karen. Sanae Takaichi has won the parliamentary vote to become the country's prime minister, making her the first woman to clinch Japan's top leadership job. And she's made history of her own, naming Satsuki Katayama finance minister. Katayama is now the first woman to oversee Japan's finances. Takaichi will now prepare for diplomatic events, including a visit to Japan by President Trump.
And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Karen Moscow.
I'm Nathan Hager, and this is Bloomberg.